Hey folks, it is the 99th guy, and today we'll be reviewing, you'll never guess, another knife. I'm kind of jazzed about this one. This one has been on my to-buy list for a long time, and I kept putting it up for different reasons. But I just got it yesterday, and spoiler, I really love this knife. And it is the Cold Steel OSS. I don't have the specs on it right now. You can look them up if you want to buy it. But here it is. It is AUS 8 steel, which I find is a very good steel. If you're going to go stainless, AUS 8 or Oz 8 is probably, in my opinion, some of the best. Holds an edge reasonably well, very easy to sharpen, very corrosion resistant, and it doesn't necessarily break your bank. Kraton handle and a sub-hilt. You know I love my sub-hilts. But I will post, I'll put something up in the video with all the specs in this thing. Now, the unusual thing about this one is, even though the blade geometry, the blade shape, doesn't look like it, this is fully double-edged, and it does come sharp out of the box. I've bought a lot of new knives lately, and I've been doing a lot of sharpness testing. So my arms are effectively devoid of hair right now, so I really can't show it to you. But it did help shave what little hair I had off. It did pass the thumbnail test. Just like most cold steel products, it comes very sharp out of the box. I was very impressed. I'm very impressed with this knife. I love this knife. I may even, despite its length, it is, I believe if I remember right, 13 and a half inches long overall. I may even try carrying it, at least for a while, EDC instead of my Smith & Wesson SW7 here, just to see if I can, if it's comfortable. I don't have a whole lot negative to say about this knife, except I really wish that the guard and the sub-hilt were steel or brass. And I said the same thing about this knife's cousin, the Cold Steel Marauder Bowie. I realize it keeps the cost down, being able to do the injection molding in one piece. But I would have more confidence in something made of steel or brass. But I knew that when I was buying it, and I knew what I was getting. And this is a very good feeling knife. The Kraton is done just right. And it's got, not only does it have texturing on the sides, but it has texturing on the back strap. I took a magnet to see if the tang goes all the way down there, see if I could feel the pull on the magnet. And as near as I can tell, it does. As I said, this knife, for a knife this size, is extraordinarily light. But because I was doing some forms practice with it last night and just messing around with it, and just because of the way the weight is distributed, and it's very well balanced, and because of the sub-hilt, I'm thinking that the snap cuts, like so, because you can, especially if you extend your arm all the way on the snap cut, I'm thinking those be very effective with this, and that's usually not the case on a light knife. You usually have to have ones with a knife with some real weight in the blade. But because of the way this is designed, especially with the sub-hilt, when you're doing a snap cut like that, the sub-hilt allows the handle to kind of rotate around your finger and give you a fulcrum. And for me, this is just perfectly sized. When you have a little duckbill here to keep that hand, it gives it a nice angle on the cutting. So aside from the fact that I would really like metal, I would pay $25 or $30 extra for this knife with some sort of metal guard and sub-hilt. Other than that, I don't have anything negative to say about this knife. She's a beauty. And I'm a Cold Steel fanboy. I have a lot of their stuff. I've never been disappointed. So there's that. Except for the handguard thing, I really like it. And again, I'm not a real fan of double-edged knives, but this one pulls it off. Now, because it's double-edged, this is a dedicated fighter. Out of all the dedicated fighters I have, and I have a lot of dedicated fighting knives, this is the most dedicated. Yeah, with any knife you could do carving and things like this, but you're not going to do any bushcraft with this because it's double-edged. You know, you're not gonna baton with this thing. Yeah, I suppose you could strike fire steel. I cannot speak. Fire steel. There I go. With this thing, but you would be ruining the edge unless you got it here on the Ricasso. Now the Ricasso, looking at it, is very angular, so you might get away with it. I don't know. Unlike most sub-hilts, this is also very comfortable in the reverse grip as well as the forward grip. And it is fairly easy to manipulate. I haven't had this for a while, so I'm still kind of getting used to flipping it around. I guess you could call this a criticism, but this is common in a lot of knives. I prefer the quillons or the ends of the handguards to be facing upward. Somebody's going to say I made a satanic symbol here, but it's just a gesture to illustrate. I'd rather have them pointing this way than that way. But I have a lot of knives that have them like that, and I'm not crazy about it. But it is a very wieldy knife. Now, the sheath is a Kydex Securex sheath, like a lot of cold steel knives. And I like Kydex sheaths for knives that I'm actually going to carry, and I'm going to try to carry this one. Leather's fine. I have nothing against leather. But if you're going to be carrying this around, especially if you're going to do any kind of EDC with it, if you're a soldier or law enforcement, you're going to put it on your molly, or you're just going to wear it around, Kydex beats leather. Sorry, folks. My opinion, but and I think that Cold Steel does Kydex better than any other company, at least in my experience. And this is no exception. You get a good solid lock up. You get that reassuring click. It goes nowhere. It has one and only one retention strap. Yay, Cold Steel. You don't need 1,000 straps if you've done your Kydex lock-up correctly and it locks in the sheath. The sheath is designed with both a snap and a belt that makes it secure, but you can take it on and off your belt without taking your belt off. So, again, I mean, the sheath is a home run. I have not taken this out to the war post yet. I'm about to, and I'll take you with me. But first impression, home run, Cold Steel. So that being said, we'll go out to the war post. Okay, folks, the war post. Got some hostile jugs down there that need dealt with first. So we're going to do some slash. I'm going to try and use the back edge, the false edge, for a back cut. Try some snap cuts. See how she does. Okay, that speaks for itself. That emptied that water bottle completely out. I'm going to try a snap cut on a handle here. And it got through, but I'm going to try it again. And we're getting some penetration. No water coming out of it because the water is draining down underneath it. Okay, let's try another angle. Okay, again. This thing is just slicing this thing like crazy. We'll throw it back. Okay, I lost a little of the bottle slicing video because the wind blew my camera over and I didn't notice it, but I got most of it. I'll edit that out later, but and I'll show you the bottles in the recap. Now let's do the war post. All right. Okay. This thing thrusts really well. It's an optimized for thrusting. I'm going to do some hard chops at every angle and some deliberate back cuts. And some deliberate thrusting. And there again, it just bites in there really well. And to pry it out of there, no tip bend. There it is again. That was in a big old mess. That's in an angle. All right. You can see that was some pretty hard wax. I was going at it pretty well. Now I don't swing for all I'm worth at any time because it's a knife, not a club. Let the edge do the work. But you can see neither edge has any damage. Points still straight, even after I wriggled it to get it out of there. So this is really good. And I will break down and go down back in my bunker and give you last impressions. But I gotta tell you, there's a few things I can mention, but I gotta tell you, I love this knife. And we will see you for the wrap up. Okay, back from the war post. We're in a little better conditions now. So I'll show you again the edges, and you'll see that I'm bashing them against that wood and over the plastic. And incidentally, even going through this plastic, which would scratch a lot of stainless steel knives, the blade isn't even scratched. This bead blast on here, I guess you call this bead blast. It might be satin, but it's not. It didn't even scratch it, and of course, no tip damage. A couple of things I did notice, and these are more observations and criticism. Let me get this sheath off of my belt. One thing I did notice is that the retention is quite good. But if you're wearing it on your belt and you just try to draw it, it's just going to come up on your belt unless you have a leg tie. You do have to take your thumb like so and snap it free. That's no problem. But if you're using this for personal protection, soldier, military, marine, whatever, police officer, something that's probably you're going to want to practice. Now, handling wise, this is no problem. It will not go anywhere. However, if you're going to be doing a lot of stuff like I've been doing, if you're going to be going at an actual target, this can kind of wear on the hands. Now, it's not designed to do any prolonged work. This is a personal protection knife. It's a fighting knife. Unless you're doing something horribly wrong, you shouldn't be using this thing as a fighting knife in the real world for more than about 30 seconds, because if it goes longer than that, then you're probably dead. So, the texturing does kind of grate on the hand, but that's a good thing for a fighting knife because it means it's not going anywhere. Like I said, there's the thing about the sheath, but you saw. Other than that, I don't really have any criticisms of this knife. I really, really, really like it. For me, the handle is perfect. Now, the results of the tests on the water bottles are actually quite impressive. This was my first cut. You can see where it landed here. Right. And going around this curve, it was a deep cut, opened it all the way up, all the way down to the middle. And it started to open up all the way through. So that's my follow through. I think you can see that it didn't get through, but that's where it bit. So by the time I started coming out, I was on my return stroke. Now this one was a solid downward cut, which would have been an angle too if you're into some systems of knife fighting. And you can see that is a really deep cut. So this thing, this is impressive slicing power for a knife this light. This is a super light knife. And then over here, first you've got the results of the snap cut. Now, like I said, the snap cut, it only got through a little bit, but the thing of it is, this little snap cut, if you're using it to pretend yourself, would be just a quick flick at the face. It's not meant to disable your opponent in and of itself. It'll back him off and it'll open up for something with more intent behind it. That would be more disabling. But here's a solid downward cut. Right, so, and as I said, I wasn't swinging for the fences here because you shouldn't have to. So, I mean, there you go. I didn't do any whittling or cutting with this one because for this knife it's pointless. This is the most dedicated fighting knife I've ever seen. I mean, it's a knife. It's got an edge on it. You could carve steaks with it, tent steaks or cooking skewers or stuff on it, but really No, not with this knife. You you can go, and get it any number of knives to do that with. This is intended for a personal protection combat knife. It really doesn't have a whole lot of utility uses, primarily because it's double-edged. Now, if they came up with something like this that was a single-edged and was this thick at the spine, they might have a really nice camp knife, even though the blade is not really wide enough for that, but you could use it for batoning and other stuff. But this is double-edged. The thickness is through the center. It's more of a diamond cross-section. But guys, do I recommend this knife? Abso-friggin-lutely. I might buy another one to have too, just because I like it that much. Excuse me. I probably should edit that out, but I'm the nutty knife guy. You don't know. That one snuck up on me. But can I recommend a knife? Abso-friggin-lutely. If I did star ratings, 5 stars. There is no real criticism I can make of this knife, as provided you use it as its intended purpose. Like I said, you get that thing with the sheath, but that's not uncommon. That might even be a good thing, because you know that knife is not going anywhere. You could probably take that retention strap off, and you have no problems, unless you were really jumping around. If you had it on your molly, if you're going to carry, like I'm going to try carrying it horizontally on my belt. I'm going to take the whole nylon thing off of here and try that. I'll do an update on that and let you know how it worked. The knife's not going anywhere, so got plenty of lashing points, and like I said, Cold Steel does these things right. So there you are, folks. This is, I am approaching 100 knives in my collection. I've done quite a few reviews now. This was the first one that came along that I really didn't have much of a criticism for. This is near perfection. Like I said, the only thing, they can make it better by making metal furniture on here. And if they really wanted an expensive kind of this knife, you make this something like $10.95 or SB3 or something like that, 154 cm. But as it is, for about 60 bucks, this is it, buddy. I love it. So that being said, I have to tell you 1, 2, draw your knives only in just purpose. Sheathe them only with honor. And to remember that without knives, life would be dull and pointless. I bid you goodbye.